AITA for faking my own death after finding out my perfect fiancé was a cartel accountant and my life insurance policy was his exit strategy? Listen, I know how the title sounds. Insane. Unhinged. Like something straight out of a bad movie. But I promise you, every single terrifying, heart-stopping detail is real. I need advice, but honestly, I think I just need a place to confess before I disappear forever. My name is Ilara, 32F, using a throwaway, obviously, and until 3 weeks ago, my life was a goddamn fairy tale. I was engaged to Reese, 35M, the man I believed was my soulmate. He was everything, charming, successful, a senior financial analyst at a boutique firm in NYC, devastatingly handsome, and devoted. Our Manhattan apartment overlooked Central Park, our wedding was set for next summer in Lake Como, and our future was a vision of perfection. The red flags I ignored, the AITA part. Looking back, the red flags weren't flags, they were giant, scarlet banners. The secrecy, Reese was extremely secretive about his work. He had 2 different, expensive, encrypted phones he called his work devices. He was always on a call with Frankfurt or closing a high-value private deal. He forbade me from ever touching his home office computer, claiming it was SEC sensitive. The money, he was rich, way too rich for a senior financial analyst. Our rent alone was astronomical, and he bought me gifts that cost more than my annual salary. I'm a museum curator. When I asked about bonuses, he'd just smile and say, "Sweetheart, my business is complicated. Just trust me." The life insurance, 6 months ago, he insisted I take out a massive $10 million life insurance policy, naming him as the sole beneficiary. He pitched it as responsible adult planning because we were merging our lives. I signed the papers, feeling loved and secure. This, my friends, was the knife. The discovery, the thriller starts. 3 weeks ago, Reese was delayed on a business trip to Miami. He'd left his backpack. I needed a pen and, feeling a moment of guilt-free curiosity, I opened the outer zipper. I didn't find a pen. I found a small, black notebook. It wasn't full of financial models. It was full of numbers, codes, dates, and locations, all meticulously cross-referenced with names like El Tigre, La Sombra, and Culiacan. It looked like accounting, but the language was terrifying. The biggest entry was titled Operation Emerald. Underneath, it had a date, August 15th. That's the day after our wedding rehearsal dinner. The entry read, A. Payout, $10 million. B. Clean break. C. Exit strategy, Mexico. My hands started shaking so violently I almost dropped the notebook. Reese wasn't a financial analyst. He was an accountant for a major drug cartel, and I was his $10 million payout, the clean break he needed to disappear. My life insurance policy wasn't about our future, it was his exit ticket, payable upon my convenient, and likely staged to look like an accident, death. The plan, the romance/betrayal. Panic gave way to cold, terrifying clarity. I had to disappear before August 15th. I couldn't confront him, that would guarantee my death, quick and messy. I had to become a ghost. My plan was insane, I decided to fake my own death using the method he'd probably intended for me. Phase 1, the setup. I secretly emptied our joint bank account, taking only enough cash to survive, $15,000. I wired the rest to a dummy account linked to a P.O. box in rural Montana. I bought a cheap burner phone and a new ID, using my mother's maiden name and an expired high school photo, thanks, awkward teenage years. I started researching the NYC waterways and currents. Phase 2, the staging. 2 days ago, I drove Reese's car, a leased Audi Q7, to a remote spot overlooking the Hudson River in upstate New York, near a hiking trail we often used. I left a suicide note on the passenger seat, written in a shaky, despairing hand, vaguely mentioning pressure and financial stress, things he knew I worried about. I left behind a few personal items, my favorite, expensive emerald ring and my phone, which I smashed with a rock to make it look like a moment of desperation. The hardest part, I dumped a significant amount of my blood, taken over the previous week using diabetic needles, inside the car and on the cliff edge. Phase 3, the escape. I walked 5 miles through the woods to a pre-booked bus ticket. I am now in a small, isolated town in rural Vermont. My hair is dyed black, I wear oversized glasses, and I haven't slept in 3 days. The aftermath, the ticking clock. The news broke this morning, missing curator, presumed suicide after vehicle found abandoned near cliff. Reese is all over the local news, tearful and devastated. He's playing the bereaved fiancé perfectly, probably already calling the insurance company. But here is the chilling part. Just hours ago, I got a text on my burner phone. It was from an unknown number. The text simply read, "Emeralds don't belong in the mud, Ilara. You know I always collect my debts." Reese didn't fall for the suicide note. He knows. He knows I took the money. And he knows my codename, Emerald. The question, AITA/what do I do? AITA for destroying this man's life, by exposing his motive and stealing a small fraction of his cash, and faking my death instead of going to the police? I couldn't go to the police, they would have just made me a witness who could easily be eliminated. More importantly, what the absolute hell do I do now? I'm trapped. I am a ghost, and the only person who knows I'm alive is a cartel accountant who wants his $10 million exit strategy back. Edit 1, someone asked about the $10 million policy. Yes, he paid the premiums. Yes, the policy is still active. If I don't die, he gets nothing. My death cancels the policy. The longer I'm missing, the more suspicious the insurance company will get. My survival is what ruins his plan. Edit 2, to the user saying go to the FBI, I cannot. If I involve the feds, the cartel will find me and silence me faster than the government can offer protection. Reese is connected to people who can reach anywhere. My only protection is being dead. Update, I saw a black SUV with tinted windows parked 2 blocks from my motel. It's probably nothing. But I'm leaving now. I'm heading west. Pray for the ghost of Emerald. AITA for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house? My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane 18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe 16, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this typical teenage girl's behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed, and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said my daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad. I was implying we kick them out and said her family'll hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move, in which something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming/blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces/granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe silent treatment and my wife is very much upset over this. AITA for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage. I F30 don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do and sometimes even copying me, like that one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So, anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country, tourism in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum. Said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say fine. I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her. Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area and first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mom could still go and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me, then called my family to tell them that the trip was cancelled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy. Did I really overreact? Update. Hello? I don't know where to begin, it's been an absolute nightmare recently. And I feel like I was losing my sanity. So for more details about my situation, I have to admit that my husband's mom favors him over all his siblings. This affected his relationship with them and me as well. He's never seen an issue with how differently his mom treats him. It bothered me and made me feel uncomfortable. The whole dynamic made me feel uncomfortable. Going low contact has never even been an option. Like he has to see her or call her every day. Most of his siblings don't talk to him and I 100% believe it's because of his mom's favoritism, like I said. He does bear some blame for not seeing how wrong this is till this day. In many instances I found myself making excuses for his behavior. Even in my post. I did it spontaneously and I don't know why. But I guess it's because of how much I love him and because I really wanted to be able to work this type of things out without letting them affect our marriage. Regarding what happened with the trip, he tried to have a talk with me and most of what he said came from place of blame towards me. I just couldn't continue with this argument. I told him I needed space and that I would be going to stay with my sister for a while. He didn't take it well, he literally got up from the couch and opened the door telling me to go right then. In that moment and seeing how he was still not even anywhere near understanding what he has done just made things perfectly clear to me. I just had pictured years and years of my life being lived like that and I was like, no. I can't do it, can't take any more of it, especially when he keeps focusing on being right every time. His mom can do no wrong. I'm always the aggressive, crazy, jealous, pathetic, overreactor. All these people's opinions, advice, and concerns were like a spark, like the wake-up call I really needed. Though I wish that it didn't get this far, but what's done is done. Right now I'm staying with my sister. I brought my dog with me as well. He sent me his last message telling I'm the one choosing to end what we had together, but I believe it's the other way around, especially with how he keeps making his mom the victim in this situation. It's become clear now that we keep going in circles with no end in reach and I'm just so exhausted and overwhelmed. I'm not mad at him and don't expect him to change, but at least I'm given options to decide what's best for me and my future, even if it's separation and divorce. A big thank you to those who reached out with resources that I feel very lucky to have come across. Just wanted to give you an update since many of you asked for it. AITA for telling my husband I'll go on vacation with the kids and my best friend if he's too busy with work. My husband and I have been married for over 4 years. Our son is 3 and our daughter is 16 months old. My husband has a busy schedule, due to both his day job and his business after that, and on Saturdays, and sometimes if I'm okay with it, Sundays. We had planned to go to Spain at the end of December for a couple of weeks. Like, we've bought tickets, booked a hotel, talked about how we'll spend our 2 weeks there. Last weekend he asked if we could postpone our trip to the end of June. Like a literal 6 months after we're supposed to go. I said no, it was so unfair that he was pulling this at the last minute. He asked me to understand that his business required him to suddenly change his plans, that it was important, that he'd been looking forward to this downtime as much as I had. To provide more context, this isn't the first time this has been an issue. His business hours had been an issue over the past 2 to 3 years. He'd made changes and organized his hours better and his job had become WFH2, so we had struck a balance that I could be okay with. But his business hours again started infringing on our family time, and he'd been promoted to a managerial role at his day job, so he was now going into work on some days too. I told him I'd been looking forward to this for so long, counting days till our vacation. I told him I'll be going regardless whether he wants to come or not, and if he doesn't want to come we can get a refund and my best friend can go in his place. Admittedly, I was just lashing out. I have no idea of the logistics of it. Yesterday I asked him again what his plan was. He tried to show me messages from his clients to show how busy he was during that period. I told him I don't care. He gave me his word. According to him, I'm being unreasonable. I wanted to know AITA here. Also, I don't even know if it's logistically feasible and I don't want it to come to it, but would I be the AH if I actually went on vacation and took my best friend along? Update. My husband caught a cold on Thursday though and had been really down and out the last couple of days. He had taken these 2 days off work, from his day job. Despite my insistence that he rest, he tried to do his tutoring classes scheduled but literally couldn't get through it and cancelled those as well. I didn't want to have the conversation while he was this sick, so I postponed it. It was great, maybe not the best choice of words as a wife talking about my husband getting sick lol, to kind of just have him do nothing for these 2 days. He spent time with me and the kids. A few of his friends and some mutual friends of ours also came to our place to see him because they rarely see him outside of important occasions. Last night I brought up the vacation again. He agreed without too much resistance. He said he'll move around some classes or take them in advance, but either way he'll be with us for the vacation. I thanked him and also told him he needs to take it easy, it's clearly affecting his health. He was like, him being sick isn't because of the work, it's because of the change in weather. I did bring up that we had an agreement earlier and that he'd kept to it for a while and we'd really struck a good balance, but things are back to the way they were prior to that. He said he always asked me before filling up Sundays, and that is true TBF, it's just, there's only so many times I can say no. He also mentioned how 2 people he knows have recently been laid off, that times are bad economically. I told him I don't see why that has to affect him. We're doing well financially, we have more than enough savings, our careers are good, he has a business that has been growing every year, we're secure where we are. He said he was too sick to talk about this, and that right now our kids are young, they need less of him, that his classes are important because students and parents come to him after having heard of him, and that it's important for them to get into good universities. I told him our son is old enough that he now wants to spend time with him, and that I can compromise on my needs and wants but not our kids. He got the point I was trying to make and said that he'll make the necessary changes. I'm glad our vacation is back on track. I'd really been looking forward to this as a family. Also, I'm glad I told him how he'd been reneging on the balance we'd established earlier and he'll be going back to it. He did do it last time, so I'm confident he'll do it again, we both just have to work to make sure we keep it in place. Thanks a lot. AITA for wanting to leave our apartment before the contract allows it? My boyfriend, 22M, and I, 22F, have been living together in a one-room apartment since last year. Our rental contract says we have to stay at least 2 years before we can move out, but I really want to leave earlier. The apartment feels too small, it affects my mental health, and I just don't feel good living here anymore. Another big issue is my job. I work full-time, and my commute takes me about an hour each way. I also have 2 home office days per week, but those are almost unbearable here. Since we only have one room, my boyfriend sits next to me gaming loudly or watching loud videos. Whenever I ask him to lower the volume, he immediately gets annoyed. I can't concentrate properly, and even going to bed early is hard because he often stays up late being loud while I need to sleep. For me, moving would make a huge difference, no long commute, no constant disturbances during home office, and just a healthier environment overall. The thing is, it's absolutely possible for us to move earlier, all we'd have to do is find someone to take over the apartment. So it's not even about the contract being a real obstacle. My boyfriend, however, refuses because he says moving is too stressful. He studies, usually has only about 4 hours of university per day, sometimes just a free day, and spends most of his time at home. But he completely dismisses my points and doesn't want to even consider moving before the 2 years are up. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to leave early, or is he being unfair by refusing to take my needs into account? He does housework like cleaning, cooking and grocery shopping, but I have to tell him like 5 times a day, but he does it. Update. I talked to my boyfriend about moving while on vacation in Spain. I thought being away from home would make it easier to have a calm conversation, but he felt like I was ruining the holiday, shouted at me, and was very angry. He reminded me that when we moved in together, I promised to stay the full 2 years. For context, I agreed under pressure. I'd been living with my mom, she was moving away, and I would have been 3 hours away if I hadn't moved in with him. I also stayed temporarily with his parents, which was tough. At the time we'd been looking for half a year, had no jobs, and money was tight. I didn't know our financial situation would improve later. Now I have a steady job and can afford better. He insisted I must keep that old promise, blamed me for everything, and spent 2 days sulking and sending me harsh messages. I was so worn down I told my stepsister I might break up with him if he didn't get therapy. He read that message and finally realized he needed help. After that, he sincerely apologized. We've agreed to stay in our first apartment together until we reach 1 year this November, then start looking for a new place. Since the holiday, he's been calmer and more reflective. We're not fully fixed yet, but I feel hopeful again and won't give up. Thanks for reading, just wanted to share the update. AITA for hiding my ALS diagnosis from my grandpa? A year ago, I, 25M, was diagnosed with limb-onset ALS after a long struggle with experiencing foot drop and muscle weakness. For a few months, I hid my diagnosis from everyone until progression of the disease forced me to come clean. To be honest, I'm still coming to terms with this, and each day has been a living hell as I wake up not knowing what motor skills I will lose next. I have always been fiercely independent and the protector of the people I love, so it kills me knowing that everyone who loves me, my girlfriend especially, now has to bear the burden of my illness. The one person I haven't told is my grandpa, who raised me and my brother until we were teens because my parents were at work all the time. He's the one cared for me the most, who has literally watched me grow up. I have always promised to take care of and give him the best of everything because he sacrificed to give me as much of a happy childhood as he could. Ever since I was diagnosed, the thought of having to tell my grandpa that his grandson has an incurable, degenerative disease has plagued me, and I don't think I can gather up the courage to tell him or to face the fact that I can't fulfill my promise. He's nearing 70 and I want him to live as happily as possible without worrying about me. The other day, we met for a family dinner. I don't see my grandpa very often now, so before the dinner I was adamant that my grandpa would not find out. My brother and girlfriend agreed to cover for me using a wheelchair by saying I'd been injured playing soccer. Grandpa accepted the excuse and all seemed to be well until my cousin, who wasn't aware my grandpa didn't know, brought it up. As I expected, he was devastated and couldn't stop asking me why I didn't tell him. Later that night, the sudden emotional shock likely triggered his heart condition. He has a history of heart attacks. My grandpa is now in the hospital and I haven't been able to stop crying. My brother is furious at my cousin for revealing my diagnosis and even more so for not being apologetic, since she's insisting that it's my fault because I should have just been honest with my grandpa. She called me manipulative and a liar and said that it wasn't my place to decide whether grandpa could handle it or not. The guilt is eating me alive, but at the same time the aftermath just tells me that I was right to hide it because the news absolutely crushed my grandpa. I don't know what to do anymore except to pray that my grandpa makes it through. AITA? Update. My grandpa did pull through, recovered, and handled things like a champ. He's not in perfect health and obviously neither am I, but we make it work. Per everyone's suggestions I visited him ASAP and we had a long talk. I showed him my post as well, with lots of tears/emotional moments. I apologized for hiding my condition and promised to be transparent with him from now on. Although I got nagged and lovingly lectured at, I do think I felt relieved to get that emotional weight over with. Grandpa said a lot and I can't include everything, but main two things were 1, he already sensed something was off, though he wasn't sure what exactly and definitely did not expect ALS, and 2, he needs no protection from reality and wants to support in any way he can. He'll be moving in with me and my brother, and we're looking at hiring caregivers so my brother's not overwhelmed. I begun voice banking due to speech changes, mostly hoarseness and slight slur. Basically like a drunk Mickey Mouse. While the people closest to me can still somewhat understand what I say, Grandpa tops everyone else and is proudly serving as resident translator. Honestly pleasant surprise how well he gets my speech, but so grateful he's gifted me these precious moments amidst the frustration. I've since gone low contact with my cousin for a variety of reasons, namely constantly disrespecting my wishes. The major one being that she came into my house knowingly with a cold, even while we had already warned people not to visit if they were sick in any form. ALS screws with my immune system and at this stage it's very easy for my respiratory system to become compromised even with minor illnesses. Minimal breathing issues so far though. Have learned a lot about myself and life in general through this disease and given the aggressive progression am now mentally preparing to make some hard decisions. When I first learned about my diagnosis I rejected tracheotomy/invasive ventilation and feeding tube, but recently I begun to reconsider. I think the worst feeling is just being terrified of both living and dying. Trying to stay in a good place mentally and emotionally, and always grateful to have people I love and who love me by my side. I know this update isn't all sunshine but I hope it gives some closure. Thanks everyone.